So the first thing we're going to talk about is timelines. And what the basic, nope, sorry, rewind that, time. The first thing we're talking about is time. So the basic understanding of time is that it moves in a concentric motion. It moves in a circular motion. It does not move in a straight line. And I am being shown a circle, like a big blue circle. Almost looks like a record. It almost looks like it has grooves in it, almost like a tree. But it's solid on the inside, but there's lines within the blue disc. So it's like they're showing you that, okay, so time is a circle, time moves in a circle, and you can go in any different, oh, it's going to be a high channel, I can tell. You can go in any different direction that you want in the circle, but within that, okay, I wish that I could show you what I'm saying. Within the circle, you can move this way on any of these different grooves. And what I think I'm seeing is that the grooves are so packed in there that it looks like one solid thing, except it's really not. So you can move this way. But if you stand in the middle of the circle, you can also move this way. So, you know, like you're cutting up a pizza. So you can move in different places on time, number one. And what they're saying is time is really just a construct, and what we're really looking at is a series of events structured in the order received. This may not make any sense to me, so have fun. What you're really looking at when you're looking at time is a series of events structured in the order received. And I feel like that's very important, the order received. They're also saying that you can't measure time by aging because the aging process doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And they're really saying that it can't be measured. And they keep showing me this circle thing. It's a huge blue circle, and the inside looks solid. Except if you really look close, it's just a bunch of little rings so friggin' close together that it looks solid. And you can go around on the rings, you can go around on the outside of the circle, you can go around on the inside of the circle, or you can go in a straight line across the circle any way you want. That's how time works. That's what they're telling me. I have no idea what this means, but that's what I'm getting shown, so. Cannot be measured. They keep saying it cannot be measured. And they're saying, okay, so this is interesting. They're saying it cannot be revisited except there is an exception. Okay. They're saying forget everything you know about time travel, number one. They're like, it's all bullshit. So there's no machines, there's no this, there's no that. It can be revisited. There's an exception here. It cannot be revisited except for this, you know, there's an exception. And what is this, like a wormhole? I don't know. I'm being shown something that looks like a fucking wormhole. Looks like a wormhole to me. But I don't know if it is. That's all I know, that's what it looks like to me. It's just like a sort of passage. And they're saying that most this This is not a word that I know. Well, I'm just going to say things because the word is in another language and I can't get it out of my mouth. But they're saying most of blah, 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 most of these things, people, beings, what have you, beings would be closer, I guess. They don't use the exception. There's no need to use the exception. Because they see that time is really structured in a random order, and the more you look at it from above, the more it appears to be disorder. I don't know. This is over my head. So they don't use the exception. There's no need to use the exception because they accept. Okay, so exception, EX, but they accept, ACC, what has come before them. That no being truly has the desire to go back to an event and change things. Because when you're looking at things from the big picture and not this microcosm of where we are, you don't want to change it. You look at it and you're like, oh no, that's right. That came about the right way. That was the right way to go. But now they're going to talk, okay, so that's the nature of time, if that makes any sense to anybody. Now they're going to talk about timelines, which is a completely different thing entirely. Okay, so when you talk about timelines, and they're showing me something that looks like coral. So if you ever see coral and how it kind of has these fingers, that's what they're showing me. When you talk about timelines, what you're really talking about is probabilities, but you're also talking about energies, frequencies, and vibrations, and all of this feeds into these separate timelines. So as you begin something, and they're saying this too, that certain things were begun thousands of years ago. You know, they're showing me like you need to think about this in geological time, not in the span of a human lifetime, which, and I quote, is the lifetime span of a gnat. So how do you like that? So they're saying you have to look at this in geological time. So when you look at certain timelines, they were set in motion thousands, sometimes millions of years ago. Okay, and I'm being like flooded with information here. I'm seeing different galaxies. I'm seeing different planets. I'm seeing, I'm in space right now. I am like, this is wild. I don't even know what I'm seeing right now. This is one of those deep dives where I have to feel like I want everybody to know that you know, I've seen a therapist, I see a therapist, and I'm certified not crazy. Not on any medication. Because this is wild, dude. But they're showing me all these different places and just that exist in this universe, and they're like, oh, we're going to talk about the multiverse. Okay, we're just going to get into all this crazy shit. Let's fucking do it. Okay, so they're showing me the coral, and they're saying when you're dealing with these timelines, what you're really dealing with, and they keep showing me like 5 fingers. They keep showing me, well, 4 fingers and a thumb, but they keep showing me this, like, okay, so here you are. Okay, so this is the example. So here you are. You're here. You are here. And you have timelines here. You have possibilities. You have probabilities. And what feeds the timeline is not technically your choices, but it is energy, vibration, and frequency. This is what feeds the timeline. So if you take the pinky finger, let's say, and you're standing here, and this is the vibe that you're aligning with. You're headed towards this timeline. Let's say you're aligned with, 2. You're aligned with these two. Then you're headed towards two timelines. Eventually, you're going to pick one. Eventually, it's going to, but they're saying it doesn't have a lot to do with choice. They're saying that choice is involved, but that most people don't really give themselves the choice. They don't give themselves the choice. They don't have a choice. They're telling me that people that do give themselves a choice are usually denigrated by society. They're like individuals that are true individuals. They're burned as witches. You know, they're strung up. So, yeah. So you have these. You're not Here's the thing. You're not starting out here. You know, you're not starting out on the finger. You're starting out on the wrist, and then you have this whole open space. Okay, this is how this is being explained to me. You have this whole open space as far as timeline goes, and most people go straight for one thing. As a collective, we can go for a few different things. We can go for a few different timelines here, and then eventually, you know, it branches off into one timeline. They're saying there are not alternate timelines where another you exists, blah, 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 blah. They're like, no, you are you're a unique you. They're saying there is another dimension. They don't like that word. But there's another dimension where the larger part of you lives and assists, but that there's not a multiverse where there's 1,000 Kirstens making 1,000 different decisions that span off into another multiverse. They're like, no. They're like, it's not that complicated, guys. They're so sorry, it's not that complicated. But they're showing me there are individual timelines, there are collective timelines. And it really, Jesus, my third eye is going like cray cray. It really it deals with what timeline you're most aligned with as far as your frequency, your energy, and your vibration. So if okay, hold on, I gotta back it up. And they're saying you can change timelines anytime. Like you can't think of the fingers as, okay, now you're only on this one finger. They're saying, like, as you progress, different timelines grow. So personally, I think collectively certain things have to play out. That's kind of the sense that I'm getting, that if there's a collective timeline, you kind of have to play it out or get to a certain point where you can switch to something else. But when you're in a personal timeline, when you're doing stuff such as, they're saying, okay, you know, Kirsten is an example. I'm in a personal timeline where I own a company called Third Eye Champagne. And at any given point in time, I can realign with a different future where I don't have that company anymore, where I sell that company, where that company becomes a scary global conglomerate. You know, there's all these different possibilities for me. So you have to look at your personal timeline. And then what they're saying too is that personal timelines and collective timelines do not mix. So it's not like the butterfly effect. They're saying that, you know, you choosing even quote unquote important people. They're saying even important people, even, you know, big names, what have you, making personal choices does not affect a collective timeline. The collective is the output of energy that is the most heightened at any given point in time. These are not my words, just so you know. The collective energy, so the collective timeline is the output of energy that the collective is putting out at any given point in time. That's the collective energy. And usually, sometimes but not often, you kind of jump around. They're saying that this could happen as little as 3 to 4 times a year, or as much as 25 times a year. So not often, take your pick there. I guess, again, we're dealing with geological time, so maybe not very often, but It depends on what the thread of humanity is picking up. And it depends on the vibration of the collective. So they're also saying you need to pay attention to your groups. You need to pay attention to who you're aligned with, because if you don't, you're on this timeline. Like if you align with, I don't know what I'm going to say here. They're leaving all the examples to me. So I'm kind of getting technical information and they're like, now explain it. Now explain it. Give the example. But let's just say you line up with we'll say the Trump cult, okay? You are on a very low vibe collective timeline. That will affect your life. So you have to see what collectives you're meeting up with. Now that's a really large collective, right? This cult. But if you shrink it, and let's say your knitting group, okay? And there are a bunch of real solid people and you have a really good time. That collective is on a higher timeline. So they're showing me it's like threads. It's like plucking different threads. So you have personal timeline. You have all these collective timelines you're involved in. You have, little tiny collective timelines like your family, again, any groups you belong to. Your religion is a much larger collective timeline. You have the collective geographic timeline. So this is wild, dude. It makes no sense to me. But I guess it kind of does. But and then you have like this human timeline, and then they're also saying there's a galactic timeline, and we don't even realize we're participating in it. But they're also saying the galactic timeline is a much, much, much higher vibration, and we don't, as human beings on this planet, really have a lot of input. We're not given a lot of input as far as that timeline goes, because we just can't get that high as a collective on this planet. They're telling me animals have timelines. They're showing me animals have timelines. Insects, not so much, but animals, and they're showing me plants, flowers, trees. They have timelines. I don't know why the insects don't. They're like, what? Fuck the insects. I don't know. They're like, they just don't have it. But they're showing me the hand with the fingers, that even a tree can start out. Everything starts out at the wrist. This is what they're telling me. And then you move into this really big space where friggin' anything is possible. And then you kind of go through these timelines and you can jump. They're telling me you can jump. That one may blink out. The belief that we are separate is incorrect. The belief that there is separation is incorrect. The belief that anything is separate is incorrect. This is why we come to you. This is why we help you. This is why we work so hard for you. You need to understand this. We love you as a piece of ourselves, because you are ourselves. The dimensions, as you call them, overlap into each other. And we can occasionally get glimpses of beings that are even higher than us. We have access to God source energy, as do we all. We proclaim ourselves children of God. Ooh. Huh. We proclaim ourselves children of God. We serve the one true living God. This is source energy. This is wave energy. God is not love, but love is God. Whatever you do in love, so shall you reap the rewards. Whatever you do in hate, so shall you see your downfall. Whatever you do in love, so shall you see God. We come to you across space and time. We come to you as a collective of energy, one of many, one of thousands, one of millions. Release your beliefs and ascend to your highest power. It is through love that you reach the divine. It is through the divine that you reach love. God's source. It is within the tiniest of things. It is within subatomic particles, particles smaller than that. To deny this energy is to deny yourself. And so many people are in denial. Release the bonds of dogma. Release the bonds of subatomic energetic grids that have been placed over you by a failing collective of beings that you cannot see. Release the bonds through love and through source energy. Access the highest point available to you. To you personally. Not to Kirsten, not to anybody else, to you. Feel your heart expand and grow. For this is the way to true salvation. Well, there you go. There you go. I'm done.